Israel's forces are on the high ground along our Syria border, so jihadists can't use it to kill us. Israel's prime minister and security chiefs visited the highest point, Mount Hermon. They discussed Israel's deployment in the important place until another arrangement is found that ensures Israel's security. Mount Hermon is the highest point in the region, 2,800 meters over 9,000 feet. Mount Hermon is 800 meters, nearly 3,000 feet above the Golan. Mount Hermon overlooks Damascus. Mount Hermon also looks over Tel Aviv. For 50 years, UN troops patrolled between Israel and Syria's armies, including Mount Hermon. Since the fall of Syria's Assad regime, there is no Syrian army. The UN troops came under attack from Syrian rebels and fled to Israel. Al-Qaeda and ISIS-linked radicals took over much of Syria. Israel is not letting Al-Qaeda and ISIS-linked jihadists take the high ground overlooking Tel Aviv. Israel is holding the high ground to keep our people safe and keep jihadis away. Yesterday, another Hezbollah terrorist was loading weapons in a vehicle in southern Lebanon. That's another violation of the ceasefire in Lebanon. Hezbollah is supposed to disarm. Hezbollah is not supposed to be in southern Lebanon. In the 18 years of ceasefire after the last war, no one enforced the deal on Hezbollah. Hezbollah fortified the border with Israel. The UN troops in Lebanon did not stop Hezbollah. Lebanon's army did not stop Hezbollah. France did not stop Hezbollah. That's why Israel's aircraft struck the Hezbollah vehicle and the weapons. That's why Israel's troops are deployed in southern Lebanon. That's why Israel is maintaining freedom of action in Lebanon. Israel is enforcing the ceasefire on Hezbollah. Israel is keeping its people safe from Hezbollah. And Israel will continue to protect its people from Hezbollah and anyone else trying to murder us. Now, let's take some questions from our audience watching live on social media.
Thank you, Jonathan. This first question is from Instagram. The United States said it recently struck a Houthi command and control center in Yemen. After 14 months of the Houthis blocking the Red Sea and firing missiles into Israel, do you think they will be the next focus of this seven-front war?
Yeah, well, in my opinion, the Houthis are now next in line in order to make sure that this another Iranian proxy that is attacking Israel, but not only Israel, it's also attacking international shipments that go through also the Israeli territories. This is something that the world needs to understand, that Israel will not allow any terror organization threaten its people, and it needs to be an international force in order to assist in eliminating any Iranian regime front that is threatening Israel, but also threatening the rest of the world. And this is something that we need everyone's support to in order to make sure that that doesn't continue in harming any civilian around the world.
Our next question is also from Instagram. There's a report that the head of the CIA is in Qatar to negotiate a hostage release agreement between Hamas and Israel. People are asking, where do you think this stands, and what are the challenges that remain?
So we're hearing a lot of reports in the last week about an ongoing negotiation that hopefully will end up by Hamas ending its territory regime over Gaza, but also one of the major points that is the most important point, and that's why Israel went to war against Hamas, is to return back all the 100 hostages that are still remained in Hamas's terror dungeons in Gaza. And this is something that all Israelis, and I know that everyone worldwide, are really looking forward and anticipating for the return of all the hostages back to their families. And hopefully we will see everyone back safe, except of course those that were already announced dead because of Hamas's persecution, because of Hamas's executing them in captivity. We are really optimistic, but on the other hand, Hamas is a terrorist organization that have refused numerous times to have any ceasefire or to return the hostages. That was the Israeli demand from the beginning of the war. This is something that me personally really hope to see the day that the hostages are back home and that Hamas stops controlling Gaza. As we heard also from reports, Hamas is also active in the West Bank, in the territory of Judea and Samaria. the Iranian regime is trying also to make a front from within the West Bank in order to make sure that the Palestinian territory, that, by the way, haven't yet denounced Hamas's October 7th massacre against Israelis. Hamas is now using the same tactics like they use against Israelis, also against the Palestinian people inside of the West Bank by firing from hospitals, firing from civilian territories. And that's something that all of us can't agree to continue. Hamas must end its rule in Gaza, but Hamas can't infiltrate anymore in the Palestinian territory.
This is a question from Instagram from someone named Roan. Can you explain why the UN troops in Syria seem to do their jobs, but the ones in Lebanon clearly didn't? What's the difference between the two situations?
Well, that is a fantastic question. First of all, the deployment of UN in Syria were UNDOF. And I believe that one of the major things is that Israel made sure not to have that front being heated. But also, we've seen a lot of reports from the last years of the Syrian civil war since it started around 2011, where we had a lot of breaches of that front. And UNDOF, although wasn't successful in preventing from missiles to be fired against Israel from those territories, this time it changed because this time Israel is making sure to enforce it on the ground and to make sure. But also, it's important to notice that UNDOF UN deployment in Syria was attacked by the rebels a few weeks ago, and that's why Israel stepped in. They secured the UN forces in the territory, and the UN forces entered and got shelter in Israel, and now Israel is maintaining that force. At the end of the day, Syria was, you can say, in much more control of the situation over its border. Yet in Lebanon, you had Hezbollah that did whatever they want, forcing Lebanon to accept every breach of Lebanese territory that they have done throughout the years. This is about time that we change that equation. Israel and also Lebanon can't let Hezbollah rearm, regain its power, and attack Israel again, and basically drag Lebanon to another war that has nothing to do with any Lebanese cause. And also, this time, we don't need only to have alliance with the UN forces in Lebanon. It shouldn't end by having a piece of paper as a ceasefire. It needs to end with peace deal, not with a piece of paper.
This is our final question today. As the Iranian regime's proxies grow weaker, do you fear that the Iranian regime will race to a nuclear weapon?
This is the main concern of Israel right now, is that Iran is heading towards a nuclear weapon. That's why Israel has done everything in its power in order to make sure that Iran wouldn't hold that capabilities. The US has also made these concerns, and I think everyone in the world needs to have that, because at the end of the day, like we've seen, it doesn't end with Israel. At the end of the day, this terror regime, the tyrant regime of the Islamic Republic of Iran, not only harming the Iranian people, not only harming Israelis, they're also harming everyone that refuses their overlords in the Middle East, but also in the West. And this is something that needs to be a joint forces by everyone surrounding us in order to make sure that Iran wouldn't hold any nuclear capabilities. Also, it's important to note, yes, Iran is now in its weakest because all of their proxies that they have funded for over, you can say, 3 decades, is now, all of them have been weakened and almost eliminated. And hopefully, we will make sure that Iran wouldn't be another threat on anyone else in the world. Thank you very much for watching. And remember, there are less than 2 weeks left to make your year-end gift. A generous donor is matching every donation up to $180,000, doubling your impact. Support the Israeli Citizen Spokespersons Office and help us combat misinformation, empower allies, and ensure Israel's story is heard. Don't miss this chance. Every dollar counts twice. That's all we have time for. Thank you very much for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow at 3 p.m. Israel time and 8 a.m. East Coast time. And if this is the last time I see you before Christmas, I want to wish you a happy Christmas and Happy New Year.